White Rocket Entertainment podcast number 707. Hello and welcome to the White Rocket podcast, brought to you by all of our great patrons via patreon.com. I am your host, Van Allen Plexico, and I am here for our second installment of the Ready Player One 5th anniversary of the movie, this time actually talking about the movie. And I am joined for this episode by the guys from the Surely You Can't Be Serious podcast, Jason Colvin and James D. Graves. Guys, welcome back aboard.
Thanks for having us, Van. We are happy to be here.
We are happy to be here.
Man, having you guys on twice back-to-back is a pretty cool experience and a privilege and an honor, and I appreciate you coming aboard.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Looking forward to this discussion.
Exactly.
And we are joined, of course, as always, by my occasional co-host, David Wright. David, welcome back aboard as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And as you mentioned, you're kind of like H. You're on your mobile for this episode again.
I got to stay mobile. If IOI shows up, I'm going to have to kick it into gear and find another spot.
There you go. There you go. For our video viewers at the moment, we are joined by the Funko Pop of Parzival and Artemis and the entire high five here, which I will quickly show to the video crowd. There's Parzival, Artemis. There is H, possibly the coolest of the high five, in my opinion. And then there is Show. Ninjas don't hug, guys, remember. And then possibly the most improved character from the book to the movie in Daito. There he is. All right. So, we're here to talk about Ready Player One, the movie. And I think we all agree it was awesome. So we can go ahead and wrap up now. Drive safe, everybody.
Hey, we do our Patreon episodes on one-hit wonders or occasionally artists that we don't think will ever cover a full album on them. And for Christmas this year, Jason picked Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You, which disgusted me to no end. But before that, he had done Dan Huff, who had not had a big interest in, but I had gotten turned around once I started looking into him. And when we showed up to start that podcast, he was expecting me to have made that same turnaround on Mariah Carey. And when I didn't, he was very angry by the end of the podcast. He was holding it in. It was tough to tell from the audio, but I could tell in his face he was not a happy camper. I'm like, dude, I'm just playing, man. It's okay. So I say all that to say, Van, I'm sorry, but be prepared for what I'm about to say about the movie. And this episode, okay?
Wait, where's my kill switch? Hold on, go ahead.
You got the big red button.
I got the big. I actually have a big red button on here that I am willing to push. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. No, so we got a lot probably to say about the movie, and I want to give out a couple of factoids about it first, and then we're going to have a discussion. This it did win the Saturn Award for Best SF Film of 2018, and well deserved it. If I had been a member of the Science Fiction Fantasy Writer of America back then, I would have certainly voted for it for a Nebula as well, but I was not. It won 9 other film awards for special effects and music. It earned close to $600 million globally, though probably about 200 million in the US and 400 million globally. It's one of those movies that did better in other places because they marketed it better, I would argue, in other places. We'll get to that. It actually was at the time the 9th highest grossing film in the history of China, passing Avatar for 9th place.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yes, and Steven Spielberg has said it was the second hardest movie he ever made after only Saving Private Ryan. So
that includes Jaws.
Yeah.
Well, because of all the CGI stuff and everything they had to do, it was just a very difficult shoot to have to, because I guess they had to have everything kind of twice or whatever, and then convert it over to CGI and all that. But it looks amazing. In fact, I remember one of the reviews at the time said they should have just spent more time in the Oasis because that really looked good, as opposed to just, people in a normal environment. So, all right. So my question is, to get us started, are we able to discuss the movie without the book? Can we take the movie for what it is, or must it always be a comparison? Can we not, you know what I'm saying? Are we able to? And I don't just mean us here, I mean anybody. Is it possible to discuss this movie on its own? Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay.
On the night that I saw it in the theaters, my heart wanted to see the book on screen. And when that didn't happen, I was disappointed. However, since then, I have chosen to appreciate these as two separate entities.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And as I always point out, the things that people say we didn't get to see from the book in the movie are not things I wanted to see. I don't want to watch somebody play a video game for 2 hours. I don't want to watch somebody recite every line from a movie. If I want to see every line from a movie, I'll watch that movie. I love the fact that Ernest Cline, who co-wrote the screenplay, okay, changed it to stuff that would work in a movie. I like that about it. And I like the fact that I get different things. I don't have to see the same things over again. I'm somebody that likes more of stuff they like, as opposed to saying, oh, don't ruin what I like by doing anything else with it. I'm the kind that's like, come on, keep going. If it sucks, it sucks, and we'll just keep going. And so I like the fact that instead of 3 challenges, we more or less have 6. 3 in the book, 3 in the movie. I like that. So that's kind of how I see it. D, while I'm up in your corner of Hollywood Squares, did you have thoughts on that? And I'll see what David says.
I actually agree with you. And Jason and I were talking on, as I was driving over here about this, about how I don't want to watch somebody play a video game either. So on that point, we're on the same page. And I don't even have a problem in a lot of circumstances changing the source material to fit a movie script, or just change it just because, hey, here's an even better idea. The issues I have with the movie, I mean, yes, after I saw it with Jason the night that it opened, when we were super excited about it, there were a lot of relationships to the book that I was struggling with, but I've seen it at least 2 more times since then, and I still have other issues that cause me problems with this one. But I agree with you. You can't, I don't think that there's ever been a movie like Jason was talking about, how when you were a kid in the arcade, or, even my kids today will sit and watch each other play Xbox without actually participating, and that's entertaining. And I don't disagree with what he's saying, but I don't think a movie has ever accomplished that successfully. So I don't have a problem at all changing things so that it's more compatible to a movie and interesting for a movie. My hangups are beyond that.
Okay, fair enough. Good deal. David, what do you think?
Well, I was laughing a second ago because I feel like you're coming out hot. You were unloading all your ammo right off the top of the show.
Oh, I got plenty more.
And I think you're not going to find any disagreement on your point. I'm with D on that. The point that you're making about how these challenges were changed for the benefit of a visual media, or a medium. You're absolutely correct. I'm going to agree with you on that one too. And like Jason, I was so in love with the book, I couldn't wait to see what Spielberg, my favorite director, was going to do with my favorite book. It seemed like a no miss situation, and I was vastly disappointed because that's not what we got. So the question is, can we separate and look at them as 2 different things? Well, when I rewatched it in prep for this show, it was only my 2nd time ever because I'd been so disappointed in it. I would rather read the book again. So I watched it consciously, making the choice that I'm going to separate these 2. I'm not going to compare it to the book. I'm not going to relate it to the book. Just as a different thing, does it stand on its own and entertain me? And I did my best to do that. My problem is, where the movie failed in some areas, the only way I can fill in the gap was by going back to the book in my mind. So I feel like the movie forced me to keep comparing to the book when I was trying not to. And so it becomes difficult. Can we separate them? You have to. If you're going to enjoy the movie, I think the extent to which you can enjoy this movie is the extent to which you can successfully separate the 2. And as much as I try to do that, I still have trouble accomplishing it.
That's very interesting. I appreciate that. I really do. We're joking a lot about it, but I'm serious about all this, that I do want to understand, because I totally get what you're saying. I just don't have any moments in the movie that happens to me. You know what I mean? So, you said you reach certain points in the movie where you have no choice but to go back to the book. That never happens to me. I don't want to get too much into the plot quite yet, but give me an example of a moment where that would happen to you.
Well, I feel like we got to that first challenge, that car race, very, very quickly. Like, what in the world just happened? Like, we didn't go over, like, I don't feel like there was enough setup. There was enough exposition. How did we even get to this first challenge? How did they realize they needed to do? Is this race happen like every day inside the OAs? It was very, very quick to me. And it's like he put on his goggles and now they're car racing. And if I didn't have my knowledge of the book to fall back on, I would have already been lost within the first 5 minutes.
Somehow the Emperor came back.
We're already talking about the Rise of Skywalker.
I understand what Dave is saying. To me, like, they tried to cram it all in those first few minutes of here's what's going on. And here's, we're given the exposition and we're giving you some visually entertaining things to watch as we're giving this narration type of exposition.
The info dump, yeah.
Yeah. But, and that's why I can understand, like, I feel like, I don't know because I can't like erase it from my mind, but I feel like if I was somebody who hadn't read the book and I watched this and it was suddenly the race scene, I'd be like, what are we doing here? What's going on? And so I understand Dave's perspective on that one. They did just kind of say, well, somebody just discovered that it was this race and here we are.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Somebody found the gateway and now we have to win it.
Right.
Somebody found the portal and now you have to.
Being the not writer here, to me, that's just a little bit of lazy writing. Like, you just explained everything. Well, if you're going to do something new, that's fine. Tell us how you got there. Just tell us how did you get to the race. Can't be that hard to just give us a few sentences, even if it's more exposition of this is what happened.
Yeah, he said some long forgotten Gunter solved the first clue. Yeah, and I was like, okay, so we're just wanting to see the race. We're not wanting to. So the first one wasn't really a puzzle. It was more of just a challenge. We'd gotten past the puzzle. We never even saw what the puzzle clue was.
Right.
Right.
And if I didn't know the book, I would have already been lost. I didn't feel like they did enough to really establish that. So.
Okay, I'll say this though, and that's a subjective thing, I think, because my daughter was 10 when she saw it with me, had never read the book at that point, and she immediately said it's her favorite movie she'd ever seen. And we saw it 5 times in the theater after that. And then she read the book.
I genuinely wish that I had seen the movie first, because I think I would be able to have a truer perspective on it. Because I want to like the movie. And Van, I know this is one of your favorite of all time, and I'm not someone that wants to try to trash on what somebody else loves, but it's hard for me to connect to this movie. It fails to connect.
For me, I just want to say this: we're kind of we're already immediately going at all of the things that we're having trouble with in the movie. Let me just say, I don't think this is a bad movie. I do not think this is a bad movie at all. This is a movie that, had I not read the book, I maybe would have watched 1 or 2 times and been like, okay, this is a good movie. I don't think it's a great movie. I don't think it's as good as it could have been with the source material and the money and the directors that they had. I feel like it could have been a lot better, but I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad by any stretch. I mean, it's like Flight of the Navigator. It's not a great movie, but it's a good movie. I'd rewatch it.
So this is closer to Raiders than Crystal Skull for you, or?
Oh, for sure. Okay. Yeah, this is Temple of Doom. This is Temple of Doom. Good.
Cool.
Yeah,
I can live with that. Yeah, for me, there's Star Wars, Untouchable. There's the Fellowship of the Ring, and there's Ready Player One.
Wow.
Followed by Kingdom of Heaven. Number 4 is Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut. And every time I watch it, I go, man, I really need to move it up. And then but I can't move it ahead of those first 3. I just can't. It's like synchronicity when Thriller's out. There's just nowhere it can go. Banging its head on you know what I'm saying? Banging its head on the ceiling, and there's nowhere to go. So,
all right, now you're talking in terms Jason can understand.
That's what I figured. I'm talking right down to earth in words that everyone here can easily understand. That's right. So let's get into it a little bit then. So all right, this question takes on, I'm glad we had that little introductory chat though, because I think that was important to lay down something and it's informing my further questions. Okay. So since I think we agree we wanted to see something different than we got, but we didn't want to see what was literally in the book, what did we want to see? Who wants to take that one?
Okay, I'll take that right now because I disagree with the three of you guys. I did want to see the book. So I wanted Parzival to be sitting in school on Ludus and wake up and realize, holy crap, this is on Ludus.
I'll give you that. I'll go along with that. Yes.
And I wanted Parzival to be the first one to solve any of the puzzles, right? Like that stole the joy that some forgotten Gunter found the race. That pissed me off. That was made me mad right out of the gate. And I also think you can successfully, certainly with the talent of this director, make a compelling montage of Parzival playing Pac-Man, because we've all done it. We understand the stress level and how difficult it is. And for me, when he's doing well and it starts playing Pac-Man Fever over the speakers as he's getting closer, and then the scrambled screen, and we could just be sweating bullets. Oh my gosh, he's getting close. I think there is a successful way to do that. In Casino Royale, Bond is playing cards. I don't even understand the rules of the game, and I'm stressed out. So I think there is a way to do what was in the book on the screen and make it tense and meaningful.
Fair enough. Interesting. Okay. D, you got a thought on that?
Well, to go along with it, the stuff that they took out that I didn't want them to take out was him being the hero who solves the mystery. I mean, if we look at Raiders of the Lost Ark, we look at the Goonies, part of the joy is that there are clues. And that's one of the best parts about the book, is that there are these clues that intellectually he has to figure out, that the audience can also go with him on that journey and figure out with him. And they've done that plenty of times in many movies, right? And for some reason, they did just kind of throw it away on this. They said they gave it to some other Gunter and they didn't explain what happened. And I think that's kind of a travesty. I think that Jason has said it well, that this is a book that was meant to have a series of either movies or a TV series, like a miniseries long adventure. If that was the case, then we would have time for so much more development, which I feel like was needed. But even with the movie being like 2 hours and 17 minutes long, it was though they were trying to pack everything they could into that. And it was overwhelming. I mean, I mentioned to Jason on the way over here, they have tons, like literally dozens or maybe hundreds of Easter eggs in this movie, but they're going by at 100 miles an hour.
There's one. There's an Easter egg at 100 miles an hour.
IOI is here. I got to get out of here.
Is there a tech poodle?
So the CGI in this is absolutely incredible, but what I'm getting is 35 Easter eggs all in a second and a half of footage running across a mountain. I'm like, I can't possibly process that this quickly. The fun thing about the Easter egg is that it's one egg and it's hidden. It's not just this, massive 80s memorabilia that we're throwing at everybody at the same time. We want the picture of R2D2 and C3PO in the hieroglyphics in the Tomb of Souls. That's what we want. That little, oh, look at that right there. You can see it right there. Not, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, the Japanese anime characters, all of them running across the screen in half a second. That again loses the appeal that I think was so important to the book of you solve a mystery and you have one prize, and that is what the Easter egg is. I'm sorry. I keep
All right.
soapboxing here. I'm very sorry.
That's fine. No, I do want to address one thing. I think those are all valid. It's all good. This is all a very subjective thing. There's no right or wrong answer universally. All right. And that's why we're here, is to get our views and opinions on it kind of out and kind of talk about it. It's fun. But I'll say this, you mentioned the clues and the puzzles. And I think that you absolutely hit on one important thing that I totally do agree on, is that they really did minimize the puzzle aspect of it. We don't get the first puzzle at all. Don't even know what it was. And the third one basically is just kind of on the fly, right? Figuring out adventure, which leaves us, the only one they even really try to figure out on screen is the second one, the Jade Key. And it goes by really, really quickly. They minimize it. They spend like 2 seconds with Samantha and Wade in the real world talking about it a little bit. Basically, that's it. But I'm going to say this though. On the other hand, because I don't ever hear anybody talking about this. The thing that I thought they did so much better in the movie with that was that the clues related to Halliday himself and his relationship with Og and with Og's wife. The clues in the book had nothing to do with anything except, can Wade figure this 80s stuff out? And that's fine. It was fun. I love it. But in the movie, they very carefully crafted the puzzles around not just who knows the lines to war games, but who can understand the relationship between Halliday and Og and Kira. And you had to work out that in the archives, with Wade being in there watching the footage of them over and over and everything. That really had a powerful impact on me, that they had made it much more meaningful in the movie than it was in the book. That, how he had to figure that out and what it really meant. So, okay, David, you haven't had a turn yet as far as that goes.
So we're back to comparing the book to the movie. We're saying the book played up the puzzle aspect, the mystery aspect of it, which we all enjoyed. And the movie kind of minimizes that, discards it in favor of this hyperkinetic pace of everything's just a giant video game. And nothing wrong with that. It's just something different. So can you separate the two and enjoy the movie for what it is? Forget the book. Here's a hyperkinetic video game of a plot. Do you love it or not?
But in the service of understanding the relationship among the people that were responsible for creating it all. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Right. And I think you make a really good point, is that the puzzles or the clues relate to your knowledge of Halliday, not to your knowledge of 80s pop culture. And that probably is a strength of certainly for adapting it to the film, and that you needed it to be that way, primarily because if you think about it, the movie is not about 80s pop culture references at all. The references that are in there are, in my mind, they're minimized. And that's one of the most frustrating things for me. They're on the screen, but they're half in shadow and they're split second. No attention's given to them. And one of the major, one half of the appeal of the book to me was the 80s pop culture references, right? The other half was just the VR sci-fi aspect of it all. But the other half is just all this awesome 80s stuff. The movie, it's not 80s at all. I mean, you got Batman, not 80s. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, not 80s. King Kong, not 80s, right?
But someone had to make Godzilla's in. Oh, you're talking about Tyrannosaurus. Okay, yeah.
And Godzilla's the 70s. Like, someone had to point it out to me later, but like Deadpool and Harley Quinn are in one shot. I missed it. But, again, those aren't 80s characters. So there are pop culture references in the movie, if you can find them, but it's not about the 80s. So so that almost necessitated a change in how the clues go. But for them to be related to your knowledge of Halliday himself, was the change they needed to make. And so if you're not going to focus on the 80s, then that was a good choice to go with that. And also, instead of constantly referencing the diary or the website that played the loop or your Grail diary or whatever, for them to have this like 3D museum where you can go and play back moments in his life, that was a change for the visual medium of film that I thought worked, But the question was, what did they leave out in the adaptation that I wish that they had kept in? Well, it's the 80s references. And I really was disappointed. And I'm sure this has to do with intellectual property rights, what Spielberg and Amblin and whoever could get the legal clearance for, so as far as what type of characters they can stick in to the background of these scenes. But in the book, that might be named and mentioned and emphasized. In the movie, they're in half shadow, they're blinking, they're gone, they got nothing to do with anything else, no one mentions them, and it's like you could focus on the characters and miss 100% of all of that. And well, that was half the appeal of the book to me. If I'm excited about a Ready Player One adaptation, that's half the reason why. And it was basically just gone. And so that blink and you miss it, hyperkinetic pace of like, whoa, it just didn't feel like Ready Player One to me. It felt like more like Speed Racer or something. So again, you can see I have difficulty separating the book from the movie, and I wish I could. And I wish I recognize the movie's good and did some things well. I really genuinely wish I could enjoy it more than I do. And I wish I'd seen it first, because I think that would have made a big difference.
Okay, I would point out 2112 was not the 80s, and
right, that's true.
There was another one too. I don't think Adventure was either, and a couple others. But
well,
and
it was,
Serenity,
but
the Firefly was not either, not even the same century.
Firefly was the outlier. I think there was plenty of 70s in the book. Like I said before, I think Klein was more late 70s, early 80s than he was just strictly the decade of the 80s. That's true.
Which is kind of me too. Yeah, we did a whole White Rocket show a year or two ago with Michael Gordon and a couple other people on 1977, 78, 79. Just those 3 years, because they were just so amazing. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if we want to talk much more about what did the movie do better or worse than the book. We've kind of been around that bush a couple of times. Anybody, any other thoughts along those lines? I'll just be fair and say, give you another chance if you want to.
Well, to keep things balanced, I want to talk about the things that I did like that they did. I did like the CGI in the movie. I'm a genuine, I do not like CGI for the most part, but they did it very well in this movie. I mean, the CGI did not leave me wanting at all. And maybe that's because it was in a virtual reality, which is the appropriate place for a CGI, but it was very well done, very crisp. The camera movements were all good. It was very perfectly executed. I know Dave has kind of joked around about the flick sync, even though it's not quite a flick sync of The Shining in the movie. But that was one of my favorite parts. I thought seeing these CGI characters walk into what in all respects appears like an exact replica of the Shining movie. And there's stuff going on that you're like, now that was not in the movie, but they have done a good job of making it look like it was in the movie. And the trick that they played with the river of blood that comes out of the elevators and the woman in the bathtub with H, I thought that was fantastic. I thought they did a really great job with that. I also thought that the castle of was it Anorak? Yeah. Castle of Anorak, I thought they did a great job with that as well. Those scenes, other than the barrage of characters that was coming by too fast for you to appreciate, other than that, I thought that they were very well put together.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was just going to say, to the point about the CGI, I had the same attitude about CGI in general, and I think it doesn't bother us in this movie at all, because we accept the rules of the world, which is that it's a virtual world anyway. And the fact that it is a virtual world means they did not have to make this CGI photorealistic. Uncanny valleys are acceptable. And so you're able to buy into it. Personally, though, and we could probably get into this a little bit later when we're talking about the characters, another problem I had was really feeling connected to the characters and relating to the characters. And I wonder if it would have been a better choice if they had taken the Matrix approach of just shooting the actors and just shooting it and saying you're in a VR world and giving it that hyper photorealistic look, because you're actually just shooting the actors. I never separate from the fact that they're cartoony, and I understand that it's, you're in the VR world and they're all avatars, they're all characters anyway, but I didn't connect to any of the characters as well as I did in the book, and I think that might be a reason why.
I want to say this
Also,
about,
I was going to say I got another thing about a major change they did to the story, but we could get into that with the characters, I think.
we're going to in
Go
just a
ahead.
second.
Okay.
Dee mentioned The Shining, and I want to say that I would much, much rather watch the characters interacting in the movie than watching somebody watching the movie and reciting the lines.
100%.
That
Yes.
was great.
I think
Agreed.
the choice of the car race and the choice of entering into the Overlook Hotel of The Shining were both great choices for the film adaptation, and I would like to have seen more of that. Of entering into the space of recognizable locations that reference pop culture. That was a good way to go. I wish we had seen a little bit more of that.
Do you know what it was supposed to be originally in the script instead of The Shining?
Blade Runner.
Supposed to be Blade Runner, which was in the book.
Right.
So he would have gone into the Tyrell Tower and done the Voight Camp test and had to fight like the Matrix with all the dudes. That would have been. I'd like to see that. I'd like to. I love the idea. One of you guys said a while ago of just make it like a Netflix show. If they remade it as a Netflix show and could do all of that stuff, I would like an extended Blade Runner segment so bad, because that would be just the coolest. But no, I thought The Shining was fine. I remember in the theater the first time going, oh, well, that came out of nowhere, but okay. And they kind of made it make sense in the idea that was the movie that they watched, that he didn't, because that was the leap not taken, that he, I love when Halliday says, she wanted to go dancing, so we watched a movie. that totally speaks to every nerdy guy that ever went on a date, right? It's so good. Okay, so let's talk about the characters a little bit. Oh, I was going to point out too, I also like the idea, we talked about how it was knowledge of Halliday that gets you bonuses here, and he gets the extra life from knowing stuff about Halliday and Og rather than just playing Pac-Man. And I do understand what you were saying a while ago, Jason, about there could have been a lot of tension around a Pac-Man game. I agree, you can do something like that well. You can do it. But again, I keep coming back to the idea that I appreciate that in this movie, it's more than just, some trivia and you can play a game. It's that you can figure out, you can solve Halliday's life problem, kind of, that he didn't take the leap, all that. So anyway, so let's talk about the characters. I want to work our way through the high five. There were certainly changes, certainly in appearance with some of them, and then and in a couple of cases more than that. So let's start with Parzival. Did you like this version? Okay. What did you appreciate or not like? Jason, we're going to start back around the horn again.
I'm pretty neutral on the actor Ty Sheridan. I thought he did a fine job. For me, Parzival is the audience, and so he allowed us to kind of look through his eyes. So I think he did a fine job. I do have some problems with other characters, and I do like some characters better in the book, but for this one, 2 thumbs up. Everything's fine.
Well, then what about if we just do the high five? Each of us go through them then. So think about the other 4.
Okay. So I like Artemis better in the movie. We talked about that last week. She's
I agree.
Cute and charming and funny and smart and sarcastic, and she's not edgy and gripey and everything we talked about last week, how she's less likable in the book than she is the movie. Graves. I think that the biggest sin character-wise, though, is the lack of true menace from Sorrento. For me, that's the biggest sin of the entire movie. The character in the book, Sorrento, was Hans Gruber, right? He was smart and he was deadly, and you didn't cross him, and he was always one step ahead. In this, he gets hit in the balls, and he's just kind of a little bit of a goofball. And Finale is the one who does kind of the dirty work. So that was my biggest problem, is I think they really missed the mark with Sorrento. As far as H was a little bit goofy. I liked her character better in the book. His, whatever. In the book, smart again, very competent, very capable Gunter, and I didn't like the just kind of the goofiness in the Overlook where I don't watch scary movies and all that stuff. There you go. So
You didn't like that?
I did not like that.
Yeah, I thought H inside of The Shining was one of the best. That was literally the
yeah.
moment that H shined to me.
100%.
If you will.
What about Daito and Show, Jason?
They were fine. I was okay, changing, countries and changing ages. I was okay with that. I do think Daito should have died. I think there was some real emotions with that in the book when they actually IOI cut him out of the thing, tossed him out the window.
Mm-hmm.
They were serious killers.
Yeah.
And in the book, they're just kind of just goofballs. Yeah, I mean,
they're stormtroopers.
They're stormtroopers. There you go. That was my biggest problem.
In the movie, you mean?
In the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there should have been more menace.
No, I get you 100%.
Yeah, we already know how I feel about Artemis, and I'm gonna give a little explanation here. I think that when she's talking about being a Flibberty Gibbet, and he's describing her when he very first meet and likens her to Jordan from Real Genius. I had a total crush on Jordan from Real Genius, and so I immediately crushed on her with him at that point. And so I wanted a little more Jordan from Real Genius when I got the movie. So
we're getting a little audio feedback. I'm sorry. I just want to. Does somebody have a speaker on loud that they can turn?
Dave, I think your microphone may be rubbing against your shirt.
No, it's like when you're talking, there's a feedback from you that's coming like out of speaker and back into a microphone. And from me now, I hear it still. No, it's like from a speaker. Testing. That's a little. No, I still hear it. I don't know. You guys don't have on headphones. That could be it. Maybe that it's feeding back from what you're hearing into the microphone.
Everything sounds the same to me. No changes here.
Volume all the way off. Try it now and see if you still got feedback. I can't hear you.
Right, no, it's still doing it. I don't understand. Well, it's still loud too. This is really weird on my end. I don't know. Maybe it's just a weird internet thing. Who knows? Well, we'll carry on.
I can hear what you're talking about too.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's like a delay.
Yeah, it wasn't doing it till just a minute ago.
Do you want to try to reconnect and see if we get a better connection?
We're recording it. I don't know. Let me. You know what I can do? Actually, I can take you out and put you back in again. Let's try that. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, David, say something. Testing 1 2 3. No,
Testing 1 2 3. How's this sound?
All right, let me kick you out. Testing 1 2 3. Hello. Testing 1 2 3. Now we're here without David.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we sound?
Yeah.
You sound good.
Yep.
Well, it's David. He's done.
Daito out the window.
I guess I had some bad takes. All right. I am back.
So it's.
I didn't want you to take it personally.
It's certainly. Let me take it back out again. Hold on. Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
It's him.
David ruining everything.
Which is weird because he has the headphones on.
I know. That's the weird thing is I don't know how he could possibly be giving us feedback. I know this is making great television, by the way, everybody. I apologize. We just want to make the best quality we can. I'll remove this from the podcast version, but the video gets warts and all. Let me put David back in now. He's changed. He's made a few changes. Let's see.
I just flipped my earbuds. That sound any better?
Yeah.
No.
No. I don't know what you're hearing. No changes on my part. Everything. I didn't do anything different.
Could you mute yours? Are you able to mute yours? At least for right now, and then when I get back to you or something, we can. All right.
There you go.
There we go. Hey, that did it. That solved it. All right. and this might very well be Dave. So All right, just hang loose, David. We'll come back around to you. All right, now it sounds much better. Okay. All right, I forget where we were though. I don't want to cut anybody off.
Yeah, I was gonna say she says Flibberty Gibbet. She goes rambling on. She's like Jordan. I wanted more Jordan-esque with the girl in the movie. Parzival, I didn't have a problem with him at all. Obviously, he's not exactly how I had him imagined in my head. His awkwardness was good when he did first meet her. But H, I thought they did a good job with H. I wasn't as big a fan of the actress. I don't think that she was bad. She didn't feel right to me in that part for some reason. I can't put my finger on why, but just not quite right. And then we've already talked about how I felt about Daito, that I like him better in the book. And then Shoto being a little kid, that gave him a little short round kind of humor, which I thought was a nice addition for the movie. So I didn't have any problem with that at all. Like Jason, and I said this from the moment we walked out of the theater, my biggest problem was with Sorrento. Not only did he have these kind of goofy moments, he gets kicked in the balls, like Jason said, but they had some sort of fake teeth thing going on with him. And I thought that it was like they did this purposely for the movie. Like I thought, because I've seen, he's in Rogue One, he's in a bunch of other things, and he doesn't have those teeth. He doesn't have those kind of, the judge from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, he doesn't have those kind of goofball big teeth, but he did in this. And I was like, why would we want to have a goofy villain? Like goofy villains aren't scary. They're not intimidating.
That went completely over my head, D. I have no idea about his teeth. That's never.
So I tried to look at it a little bit, and I wasn't able to get a whole lot of information from it. But I guess I can't remember the actor who plays
Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah, Ben Mendelsohn. Yeah. That's right. So I guess that he was trying to get some other part in a different movie, and was one of those dedicated actors like Nick Cage who was willing to yank out teeth in order to get a part that the character had to be toothless or whatever. And so I think that those teeth were not a movie choice. I think that was just we're trying to temporarily fix this toothless problem. But whatever the motivation was, right or wrong, I just felt like it kind of killed that intimidation factor of Sorrento that you just made the book so good.
Yeah, that's all new information to me. That's interesting. Yeah, I know. I agree that he is kind of more of a comic villain than he is like a deeply serious villain. All right, I'll reserve all of my breakdown for last. So David, come back to us. Come back to us, David. Come back to the light. Come back. Tell us your thoughts on the characters.
Right. So I just made a brilliant point. I don't know if you heard it. So Daito and Sho, right, to me were hurt by the movie. I don't feel like I knew them at all. They were very marginal to the story of the movie. The best thing I can say about them is that Daito's look, right, with the samurai armor and the who's the actor that's in all of Kurosawa's films, had the face projected on there, Mifune or something. That was a cool look. Yeah. So I know what you're saying, that Daito was redeemed a lot from the book by the movie. He was helped out a lot by his role in the movie, but I think it came at the expense of Shoto. I think the loss of Daito in the book really did a lot for the character of Shoto, and as a result, Sho is kind of left like as the short round comedy relief. I think whatever rehabilitation we got for Daito, it came at the expense of Sho. But I didn't like it. It felt like random when they first were introduced into the movie, and I don't feel like they got a proper introduction. And they I don't know. I never connected to them. They were just along for the ride on this hyperkinetic movie that we're in. Was H so cartoony in the book? Because the look of the Avatar was so different than anything I had imagined that I was thrown off by that. The coolest thing about H in the movie was like he's the mechanic and he can work on the Iron Giant and all that kind of stuff. But I never felt connected. I felt a lot more connected to the H of the book. I disagree with Dee on the casting choice for Helen. I thought they nailed that part. I thought I totally believed her as Helen. But then it comes down really to Parzival and Artemis, because like I said, I didn't feel the connection to the other characters in the high five. But if you don't connect to Parzival and Artemis, then the movie's not going to work at all. I think the movie on its own terms, it did work. Artemis certainly, has more to do, is a stronger character, a leader of the resistance kind of thing, recruits Parzival into it, or Wade into it.
But yeah.
So, and there's a lot of good stuff there for the character of Artemis in the movie. Totally, don't disagree with that. But this is what I wanted to get to, is they made a big change from the structure of the story in the book when they had Wade and Samantha meet each other in the middle of the story instead of at the end.
That's right.
And the high five come together in the real world early, like in the middle of the action. And where in the book you don't get that until the very end. And while that can totally work, for a different entity, you got to separate the two, right, to enjoy them. This is a different choice to make, and don't think about the book. Does this work or not? It probably does. But I had someone point this out to me. I won't mention his name, but his initials are James Buckley. Did not. He actually hates Ready Player One. The book, the story, everything about it. And he says,
my butt.
well, he said the reason why is, I don't want to misrepresent him, but what I took out of my conversation with him was that there's not a big character arc. There's not a big transformation for Wade from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. He's still the same guy. So I thought about that because, I call myself a writer who considers those types of things important, and I love the book. So do I agree with that or not? Well, what's he doing? Well, he's kind of right. There's not a big transformation arc there. And I think that Klein is depending on the audience to have like this anti-big corporations sentiment, because that's what Wade is doing. He's fighting the big corporation. He's fighting for the future freedom of internet users, basically. So I think that's a valid point to say he's not undergoing a vast transformation arc. But what does happen in the book is what's the lesson learned? Okay, the lesson learned is that you've got to work together. Okay, so Wade is solo, Artemis is solo. And they're anti-clan, right? No real Gunter wants to join a clan, and they're on this quest alone. But what they find out, and in the end, what Halliday forces them to do by using 3 keys at once, the lesson learned is that you've got to work together as a team, and you can't be selfish. So I do disagree with James. There's my justification as a writer for liking this book, is that there is a theme, there is a message told about the importance of teamwork, the importance of coming together and working together to accomplish a goal. And I think that particular theme is discarded when in the movie you bring them together so early. So again, doesn't mean it doesn't work in the movie, but you're fundamentally changing, I think, the message of the story of the book, however you wish to adapt that story.
All right, let me respond. That's a very good point, David. To mute.
Oh, sorry.
There. Thank you. No, that's a very good point, and I'll address it this way. I agree that they bring them together early, and it does change the dynamic of what they're trying to do in terms of the character transformations. That's absolutely right. But they do still learn the lesson of needing to work together, and not just when it's expedient, because at the end, after they make a point all the way through the movie that he keeps saying, I don't clan, right? I don't clan. And then at the end, he says, I'm sharing this with my clan. And they bring them all together. So they do hit on that a bit. Now, it is kind of a tell, don't show. I give you that. But they kind of do that. But the other transformation that they do with Wade in the movie is the whole Halliday wouldn't make the leap. And he says, I'm not Halliday. I'm not like Halliday. I'm making the leap. And he kisses Samantha. So it's thin. I'll give you that. But they do hit on both of those things. They hit on the transformation from single to a team, and they hit on he's learned the lesson Halliday has been trying. Because a lot of it in the movie is Halliday's just trying to teach a lesson, right? He's saying, don't make the mistake I did. That, don't put something ahead of your relationships with people you care about. Make the leap, make the effort, love somebody. Even the last little bit where he has to sign away that he's, the sole proprietor. He throws the pen down and says, no, I'm going to give the whole oasis away rather than lose what I have with my friends. So they do some effort, and I think we've all touched on this a little bit during this conversation, is they have to cram so much into that 2 hours, right? That everything like that gets minimized, whether it be the puzzles or the character transformation or other things we haven't even talked about. Everything has to get minimized in order for everything to be included. I wish the race was 5 more minutes long. Because every time I watch in between a couple of my classes, I have 15 minutes, and I have the movie on a USB drive where I have all my PowerPoints from my classes, and I'll just stick the race on and have the race running in the background when my students come in. They're like, "Oh, here we go again." I'm like, "Yep, here we go again. There goes the race." Because you can just watch that 10-minute, 5-minute segment, and you don't need anything else. So I think those are all very, very good points. All right. So all right, let me run through the characters real quick. I don't want to monopolize, but I haven't had my turn. Let me run through the characters real quick. All right. So Parzival, yeah, I think about the same. Some strengths better than the book, some less than the book, kind of a wash. Artemis, I like better in the movie for the reasons Jason and I have talked about. And here she is. And because they give her more agency. We didn't talk about this on our last episode, guys, but there was a big controversy when the movie came out, right before the movie came out, about the book, because the book came back into people's consciousness in 2017, 2018, when they knew the movie was coming. And there was this big thing about how Artemis in the book, some of our more, ideologically extreme friends that I dearly love, many of them, but we had serious disagreements on social media about this. David, you probably saw some of it. You guys, I don't think were in my orbit at that time, so you didn't. But some of my dearest friends were like, "Oh, it's misogynistic. Samantha Artemis is just a prize to be won by the guy. She doesn't have any real agency and all that." And while I don't agree with that, and I would point out things like she was the first one to find the Tomb of Horrors, for example, just didn't happen to be good at joust, but who's that good at just a random game. But on the other hand, I do like that the movie did address that a little bit, because she got to be the one that went inside IOI instead of Wade. Now, I will say this. I said last time that in the book, when he goes inside IOI, risking his future, right, his life and his future, that's one of my favorite parts of the book. But, and I regretted that we didn't get to see that the way it was in the book. I did. That's probably the thing I missed more than anything else from the translation over. But letting Artemis do something kind of like that, I thought was a very good idea. Because if you're not going to do it, and if you're going to just do a kind of a minimal version of it, let her do it. Because she was the more idealistic one anyway, right? Wade is, I'm going to buy a big house and a bunch of cool stuff. Artemis is, I want to shut this down because of what it did to my father. And she's like, you live in this fantasy. She doesn't even want to be there. Movie Samantha has made Artemis so great, not because she likes it, but so she can win and push the big red button, I think. She just wants that button, or at least to get rid of the IOI part of it. And so I like that about her more. Okay, that they gave her these motivations and reasons and justifications. All right, H is just cool in both. It's a wash. And I said H is probably my favorite character in the movie, just because H is so much fun. And I agree, the shining part is so much fun. And then Daito and Sho, The changes are fine, whatever. But again, I like that Daito is so likable. I think that one of the I didn't realize how unlikable Daito was in the book until I watched the movie, because Daito is so likable in the movie. I'm like, wow, he was so much nicer than he was in the book. I went back and listened to the book again. I'm like, what a jerk he is in the book. So I like that. And then Sho was, again, kind of a throw. I agree with David that I think it was David that said that Sho kind of gets the short end, because Sho kind of gets demoted to the cute punchline. Ninjas don't hug. I'm the world's toughest 11-year-old or whatever. You know, Mira was like 11 when we saw this the first time, so she thought that was awesome, by the way. But I did score one on you, David. You have to give it up for this. Say what you will about Sho. Sho drove the black Trans Am from Smoking the Bandit.
He gets maximum Death Day points for that. 100%.
Yeah,
he's a legend.
Yeah. And then Rex it blows up. I love that so much. What
are you gonna do with all that beer?
I'm 11. I can't carry beer. We needed the snowman to show up with the 18-wheeler behind him. That would have really been cool if the big old the Bandit's 18-wheeler snowman. All right, so we did the characters. By the way, here's something we haven't really noted. There's basically two new characters, right? We get a completely different IROC, but we only see IROC in the Oasis. We never see the real IROC, which I don't guess we do in the book either. And then in the movie, we get Finale. I forget what her last name is, but we get Finale, who's the cool lady from the second Ant-Man movie. I like her a lot. And we only see in the real world. We never see her in the Oasis. So we get an Oasis only character and a real world only. And I thought that was interesting. If you guys have anything about that, I'll say just a second. And then also, I really like that we actually get some faces on the oologists. I really enjoyed those cutaway scenes where you see the redheaded girl and the big heavyset guy, and they're trying to figure it out. Because you look at them and see them in the real world, and you think they want to be playing this so bad, but they've sold their souls to IOI. And this is the purgatory that they've chosen for themselves by taking that check that Parzival wouldn't take and that the High Five presumably wouldn't take. All right. So, Jason, do you have any other thoughts on any other characters that we mentioned before we move on?
No, I did enjoy the oologist cheering for Wade at the end, because everybody wanted to see the completion, right? Just put the key in the hole, put it in the hole. And
do you want it or what?
That part was exciting in the movie when he's trying to put the key in and he's getting rammed and all that stuff. So that was fun. I agree with you there. Finale, I wanted Sorrento to do the dirty work.
Yeah, that's fair. They kind of took the hard edge from Sorrento and made a new character for that. And it kind of, I guess in a way, Sorrento needed somebody to talk to kind of tell us, what was going on. So you needed a flunky, but they did kind of give her the better part of Sorrento in a way. So
she's like odd job.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So if I can say this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I agree. It was fun to see the oologists. I had a different image of them as more inept and buffoonish. Like guys who wanted to be Halliday experts but weren't really in the book. And in this one, they really were. They were young, eager-faced people who just thought, maybe it's like a lot of young, eager-faced people who work for a corporation that they don't really realize is this bad corporation that they should be scared of. They're just like, hey, I can get a job where my love of Halliday information, I get paid for. And so, I enjoyed seeing them. I enjoyed that part as well.
Good deal. David?
Well, I think it was important for the movie to elevate IROC to a kind of boss level villain, a face, an antagonist, put a face on an antagonist inside the Oasis. I think that was important. He's kind of like the Uruk-hai at the end of Fellowship of the Ring. You gotta pick. There's got to be somebody, some mid-level villain to beat. You know, I think you serve the same function, maybe even also a little bit of a Boba Fett function. You know, you're going around trying to solve all the big plot, and then this guy keeps popping up and causing trouble and complicating things at the worst possible moment. So I thought that was good. I thought it was a good use of the character, and you know, and to pick somebody minor from the book and elevate him like that, I thought that worked. Finale, she kind of got on my nerves. I mean, I didn't like her, but and I wonder though. I just popped in my head. This probably has no merit at all. But is there any chance that IROC was Finale's avatar?
No,
Because-
there's no way. They're totally different. The personality and everything is just,
It's just one you only see in the Oasis, and the other one you only see in the real world. So,
Yeah.
I was just wondering that.
they've never been seen in the same room together.
Oh,
All right.
one scene that was not in the book that I thought worked really well, probably my favorite part of the movie, was when they tricked Sorrento into thinking he had exited the Oasis when he really had not.
That was-
That was like total like Mission Impossible TV show kind of con they ran on him, you know, which I loved. I thought that worked really well. I thought that was cool.
That was
Agreed.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, it was a
Bossman
John Woo
69.
thing too. He was the killer. He was the hard-boiled killer, the John Woo deal. That was pretty neat. Yeah. I like that. All right, so we move into our last little segment here of other stuff. And now we're going to maybe a little happier. What was your so we kind of touched on this, but let me go around the horn again. What was your favorite moment or scene in the movie? And just totally put the book aside. What was your favorite thing from the movie, Jason?
Well, obviously the assault on Anorak's castle for me was the most fun. Flying by Chucky and robots and, you know, all that stuff. I totally had a blast. And the Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it, was the perfect needle drop at that moment. So that part worked great. I do think at the end when Parzival's trying to put the crystal key in the slot, that part is tense. I thought that part worked really well. But I'm going to vote again for the assault on Anorak's castle.
Good deal. All right, D.
It was the high five in The Shining for me. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed it.
Very nice. David, your favorite moment or scene?
I like the Mission Impossible game they played where they tricked Sorrento into thinking he'd exited the Oasis and he had not. I like that a lot. I also like the scene in the nightclub where he pulled out the Zemeckis cube and was able to go back in time 60 seconds and escape the trouble. I thought that was pretty cool. So there you go.
I think I think that probably I love the whole movie so much it's hard for me to pick one, but I got two that probably I do like the scenes you guys have all mentioned, absolutely. But I love the race so much. I've watched it over and over. I mean, I've watched the movie probably 25 times, and I've watched the race by itself probably another 50 times, honestly. I just love it. I love it. But I also really like the distracted globe. I like how it looks. I love it's all the purple lights and everything, and he's in Buckaroo Banzai outfit, and she's got that red dress. And IOI comes in, and we have IROC get some interesting moments there, where he's got Harley Quinn spying for him, you know, and he goes up to the table and tells those ladies, what does he say? It's a trivia question. I won't give it away, but he says something really strange there. Yeah, I love the distracted globe. I think it's probably between the race and the distracted globe for me, but all the set piece scenes are just so good. So, and then there's one other character I want to mention that I really think works really well in the movie that I don't think gets enough attention, and that's Rick. I really like that actor that played Rick, the
Jerk boyfriend.
not stepdad, but the guy dating the aunt. He's such a good dorky bad guy, you know. Don't you call here. I don't want to hear your voice ever again. Well, you won't, Rick. Don't worry about it.
I wish I wish Spielberg had gone for a little bit of a grittier, bleaker tone for the real world stuff in the stacks. To me, I don't think it sold the misery as well as as the book did. I would like to have seen that to have a little bit of a rougher tone. I also,
Hey, David, including Mrs. What's her name didn't die.
Gilmore, you got.
Gilmore didn't die.
Can't remember her name.
And then at the end of the movie, when they all show back up at the stacks again, and then all the residents of the stacks come out into block Sorrento. I thought that was really cool. Like, here's the whole community getting together to resist this oppressor. What fell flat for me though is all he did was show his gun, and all these trailer park people. They just get quiet, meekly part ways, and don't say a word. And let him, just because he showed a gun. Are you kidding? You do that in a trailer park, see what happens. It's going to be quite awesome. Especially in Oklahoma City. Oh, first of all, can I say something about Oklahoma City? Completely erased from this movie. Total Oklahoma City erasure. It was 100% set in Columbus, and I now have a little bit added sensitivity for people of Oklahoma. I don't know if I can stand for this erasure.
I felt like Jason and I had a part in the movie, and it ended up on the cutting room floor.
That's right.
I like it. That's good.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, they did kind of. Again, this is another way they compressed it by not having him travel. But yeah, when he traveled on the bus and everything was one of those neat little scenes that we had to lose. It's unfortunate. So, all right, we talked about a lot of the other stuff in my other stuff category. I do want to ask you guys if anybody has any thoughts about the deal with Halliday at the end, because that kind of pops up a little bit in Ready Player 2, the book, the idea that maybe Halliday is not exactly what we thought. So, D, you look like you have something to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the first time that I've seen the movie since I read Ready Player 2. And yeah, that moment it was just like, okay, well, good. They've got a little mysterious question mark at the end of this thing. But yeah, when you know that, who the villain is in Ready Player 2, that takes on an entirely new meaning. And I don't know how much of, I would guess that Klein probably had a pretty good outline of what Ready Player 2 was going to be while he was writing the script for the movie Ready Player 1. So I definitely think like that was a nod for sure.
Yeah. Jason?
I don't know. I can't really talk about this because I haven't read Ready Player 2. So,
but just in terms of that, they made this whole production out of he's not still alive, but he's not an avatar, but he could communicate with Wade or with Parzival, have a conversation, everything.
Yeah.
It struck me the first time I saw it, way before the second book came out. It struck me as I'm like, where were they going with that?
Yeah, I felt the same way when I watched Man of Steel with Russell Crowe's character. It's like, is this a recording or is this artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
I was just happy that Wade won the contest and all the stuff at the end, the red button. It's okay. It worked for me. I was good with it.
I'd say this, after the movie came out and I saw it the first time, actually the lady that cuts my hair, we talk about movies a lot. Okay. When she's cutting my hair, and she said, yeah, I saw that. She hadn't read the book or anything. She said, I saw it and I was good. She says, good. But her big thing was, what was the deal with Halliday at the end? And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm thinking, if your takeaway from seeing this movie is wondering what the deal was with Halliday, they probably shouldn't have even gone there with it, because that shouldn't have been your takeaway from this movie, is to wonder what the big cliffhanger about Halliday was. I thought that was more like just a little random detail. You know what I mean? That was more of a detail than something that you're supposed to walk out of the theater going, oh, I got to get the sequel so I can find out the big secret of how that. I didn't get that. So I don't know. David?
Well, I would say if you're immediately coming out asking questions about the cliffhanger ending, then maybe the movie did do a good job of keeping you on the hook through the whole thing, and you did follow it all. I don't know. I was so excited to see a Raiders of the Lost Ark poster in the background that they could have been talking about anything in the scene. I think there was a Rush 2112 poster also. Yeah. So I was like, okay, all right, this is the movie. Oh, it's over. Okay, but I have not read Ready Player 2, so all this talk's going right by me. But it's making me interested in it. I guess I need to check it out. So I don't have a big take on it.
So last couple of things, I want to ask you guys some trivia real quick, just another little handful like we did last time, just to give a taste. But before we do that, I would kind of like to get an overall, like we talked about liking it, not liking it, and everything. But I want to get kind of like a nail it down on a number. So the way that Andy and I do the Babylon 5 thing is we do a scale of 0 to 5, and you can do halves, like a 4.5 or something. So on a scale of 0 to 5, we're using halves. How would you rate this movie just from the standpoint of I went and saw it, it was a movie, I saw it, here's what I thought about it, okay? So Jason, where on a scale of 1 to 0, whatever to 5, would you put it?
I'd say it's a 3. It's enjoyable. I do agree with Dave that I would have enjoyed it more if I had seen the movie before I read the book. So it was a disappointment in comparison, but it's still a fun ride. I like it. I give it one thumb up, one thumb sideways. So a 3.
Good deal. Okay. D?
So before you said it was on a scale of 1 to 5, I was thinking IMDb. I was like, this would be a 6.7 for me on the 1 to 10 scale. So I guess it's what would that be? 3.5 ish. Yeah. 3.5 ish.
Fair enough.
You like this movie better than I do?
Well, according to the rating.
So I think 3's fair. 2.5 to 3. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I can watch the movie all the way through, but it doesn't like resonate with me. I don't come away going, oh wow, this one goes in my top 10. I don't get that type of reaction, that type of connection to it. It's a perfectly fine movie experience, but ultimately it's a lot of motion and a lot of noise, and it's a fun ride, and then it's over. It doesn't stick with me. So I'll go ahead and give it a 3.
Okay, I have to split it. In terms of just the movie by itself, I give it a 5 because it's one of my top 3 movies of all time. I have to, but after the stuff that we've talked about today and how it could have been, I'm going to say 4.5 because there's a half a point it loses for stuff that could have been even better. I've always tried to figure out why it is I like it so much more than most people, and I don't know why that is. I think part of it was that Mira and she was just the right age, just like going with your kid when they're 10 to see Star Wars in 1977, although I was the 10-year-old. And that had a lot to do with it. The two of us were just bubbling over in the theater with how awesome it was, and there was part of me going, oh, but I wish that we could have seen the Tomb of Horrors. Oh, I wish you could have figured out the puzzle. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. We're having a great time, and so we just loved it. And from there, it's always, been the same way. So, all right.
Dan, I got a question.
Sure,
so
sure.
you've been met with a little difference of opinion in this conversation today with one of your favorite movies ever. My question to you is, are you used to having this conversation with people, or is this a new experience for you?
Oh, no, I've had it a million times. Because I talk about the movie all the time, and I never find anybody that likes it as much as I do, except for Mira. So, so I've had this conversation a million times, but I wanted to kind of drill down deeper than normal, and with people whose views on this I really respect and honor, to begin with. So I knew that, this isn't a let's trash it or let's talk about how great it is hollowly. This is like bringing substance, and that's what I wanted. And I wanted to, and you guys have made me think about some things for sure. I mean, we've gone through some things that I'm like, yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, and maybe we've done the same way in the other direction. I don't know, but I mean, I think it's been really useful. I've so that's where I am. All right.
I've got one last thing I wanted to toss in. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that resonates with me, this is my all-time favorite movie trailer. Okay. When this dropped, I freaked. So this actually dethroned Star Wars Phantom Menace in my book. So way back when it took like 6 hours to download the Star Wars Phantom Menace trailer from the internet, when you watch it for the first time, like, holy crap, who's that guy with red and horns with a lightsaber, right? When I watched the trailer for Ready Player One and it's set to jump by Van Halen and you see all these images, I'm like, I cannot wait to see this movie. So for me, just a little side note, it's my all-time favorite movie trailer of all time.
That's interesting. I thought you were talking about the trailer that had the variation on the Willy Wonka theme, because that that to me, like I was trying to find that song to download it as soon as I saw the trailer. I'm like, this is fantastic. That the little ding as each thing was happening, and
That was
Oh,
cool too.
you're gonna
And-
hear it. I've got it. I'm gonna put it on the bumper on this show. So you're gonna hear
So-
all that. Don't worry.
on
Plenty of
that
music.
subject, let me just touch on this before we get completely away. There's one other thing that I really enjoyed about the movie that I didn't mention, and that is the soundtrack. As you guys
I
may
forgot. Sorry.
you may or may not know, my favorite movie from the 80s is Back to the Future. That was my 10-year-old moment, right? And the John Williams was supposed to be, I mean, he always goes with Steven Spielberg to do stuff, but he was doing Spielberg's other movie, The Post, at the time. And so next best thing for them was Alan Silvestri. And so that really helped me along in the movie to hear all of those very Silvestri and ergo Back to the Future sound notes and cues throughout the picture. I really, really liked that.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. Hold on one second, David. I'm going to get to a few, but I'm glad that you mentioned that though, because I meant to ask you about the music. And after David does his bit, I'm going to ask quickly about the songs. David, go ahead.
Well, I was going to give you the segue then for the songs, because
Go ahead.
the soundtrack does need to be mentioned, and I believe the book largely neglected 80s music. That's like a big part of pop culture that didn't get its share. Obviously, Rush played a big part in the book, but that album was from the 70s, and I don't know if we got 80s music in the book. And here in the movie, I said that, a lot of the pop culture references, not only do they go by too fast for my taste, but they didn't really have anything to do with the 80s. But the soundtrack makes up for a lot of that. The soundtrack was incredible. You're talking about the score. I love the needle drops. I mean, I just, that was, whenever a song hit, that was always, perked me up, got my attention, put me right back in the movie. I thought it was a big strength of the movie.
Well, you need to read Ready Player 2 then, because there's a huge segment of Ready Player 2 that is a very, very big 80s rock star, pop star. Very, very important part of that book.
By the way, I don't know if I can't remember honestly if they did it in the movie, but another powerful trailer that they had started off with Tom Sawyer by Rush instead of
Yes.
any of the songs from 2112, and that one was an 80s gem. I mean,
Yes.
call me one of the sheep, but that's my favorite Rush song. So I loved seeing that one.
Yeah, the thing about the music, I didn't love all of their music. I'll put it this way. If you go through the movie and pay specific attention to what songs come up in what parts of the movie, what I have determined is it's much more about the lyrics relating to what's happening on the screen than it is the sound and the feel of the song and how appropriate it is for that moment. Because there are several moments in the movie that I'm like, this song doesn't really go. The music, the feel of it, the tempo and everything doesn't really go here. But if you listen to the words, over and over and over, this happens. From the very beginning, it's Jump when he's climbing down the stacks, to the very end when it's Everybody Wants to Rule the World. That one works okay. There's Everybody Wants to Rule. No, that's at the beginning when he's talking about winning the contest. It's Everybody Wants to Win the World, and at the end, it's You Make My Dreams Come True. It's always the title or the lyrics that fit. But when they were in the Distracted Globe in the trailer, it was Aha, Take on Me, and I thought that worked great. That worked great in the Distracted Globe. But in the movie, it's Blue Monday, and then Staying Alive. Staying Alive was good. That put some life right into them. That woke everybody up. But that whole Blue Monday sequence, as much as I like it, okay, it was a little low. It just when they jump off the thing in the trailer, when they jump off the ledge, it's doing the Take on Me and it's up tempo and it's cool. When I saw it in the movie, they jump off and you just keep hearing that Blue Monday slow song, and I'm like, well, that kind of let us down a little bit. But yeah, that segues me into the trailer you mentioned. The last trailer, they call it the Dreamer trailer. I don't know why they call it that, but that's what they call it. That one I thought was really good, but it came on. They put that out right before the movie came out. And when the first couple of trailers that came out, I did not think were very good, and I thought they did not market this movie very well. The Dreamer trailer, if they had started with that a month or two before it came out, I think it would have been much more successful. But it reminded me very much of how John Carter was marketed by Disney, in that they didn't really understand in the marketing department what they had. And so they didn't know how to tell us. And it's the same with the movie posters. The movie poster of Wade climbing down the stack at night with the really long leg, that doesn't make me want to see that movie. The Japanese poster with Mechagodzilla and the Gundam, we didn't even talk about the Gundam and Mechagodzilla, and the Back to the Future car and the dinosaur. That movie poster is awesome, and I thought that's the one they should have used here, man. That it is kind of throwing pop culture stuff at you, I agree, but at least it's cool stuff on the poster and not just some random kid climbing down a ladder, which I thought, why would anybody want to go see that? I didn't understand it. So can we mention just for a moment that we saw a giant Gundam robot fighting Mechagodzilla? I mean, if nothing
cool,
else,
man.
Come on.
It was cool.
Although I
It
wanted
wasn't,
the
it wasn't valid as B, but it was okay.
What did you say, Jason?
I wanted the old school Mechagodzilla from the rubber suit looking one, but
Yeah.
that's just me.
But hey, you know what? We get super new Mechagodzilla again in King Kong and Godzilla versus Kong. And so it just blows my mind that we've had 2 live action Mechagodzilla movies in the last 5 years. I just rewatched it and it's so good. So anyway. All right. Any last thoughts? I'm gonna hit you with like 4 or 5 trivia questions and we'll wrap up for today. Good. All right, here we go. Let me see what I've got. We did a handful of these for the book. We're going to try to get together again and do a trivia episode. We'll see how that goes when we can. We already talked about that. Okay, here you go. What nickname does H use to describe Artemis when Parzival first says he sees her next to him on the starting grid of the race? When he says he sees Parzival, H says, "This person?" and he says the name. What's the nickname?
Akira.
Oh. The Sixer Fixer?
Oh,
yeah, there you go. That's
Fixer?
good.
Okay,
That's good.
that was good.
The Sixer Fixer.
Let's see. Who can you climb Mount Everest with in the Oasis?
Batman.
Yeah, I figured everybody would get that one. Which Star Trek movie? We talked about that there's a 2112 poster. We talked about Raiders of the Lost Ark. What Star Trek movie poster is hanging on Wade and Samantha's apartment wall at the end?
You know it?
I have a guess.
I have a guess too. But it's just
I'm just going to say Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan is what I would say. It's
Star Trek the motion picture.
Okay.
Okay.
Star Trek, the rainbow, going down to Kirk and Spock and Leia. Let's see. What animated show is featured on the lunchbox? David, you gotta have to mute. It's killing me. Yeah. What animated show is featured on the lunchbox in Wade's hideout when he reaches for his visor? This is a little harder than the book. You guys were just killing the book trivia. Y'all were like killing it. I guess I've seen it 50 times. So, Thundar the Barbarian.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Nice.
Two more. Some of these are just too easy. Oh, okay. This is one that you just kind of have to know because you don't really get to see it enough, but it's a good one. I'm going to ask you. What movie is being advertised on the theater marquee in the race before the T-Rex appears? D.
I can't remember the title of the movie. It's Jack something 3, and it is a nod to Jason's favorite movie, The Last Action Hero. No, just kidding.
Yeah, that's right.
It is whatever Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. It was like Schwarzenegger in
Jack Slater, yeah.
Slater 3,
yeah.
And they put that in there because Zach Penn was the writer of
Bonus.
Both
Yes.
Ready Player One and
Last Action Hero.
Last Action Hero.
Wow.
That is correct.
I wonder I didn't like this so much.
You get a bonus for that. That was very good. All right, last one. I got to pick a good one. Let's see. When Halliday in the archives says he wants to go backwards really fast, he says somebody else did it. D is the trivia master, I'm learning over the last 2 episodes. Who else did it?
Oh, nobody else got a guess? It's Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted did
Nice.
it. That's right.
Ted did it.
I want to go backward really fast. Really fast. Bill and Ted did it. All right. Good job, man.
I've got a question. I've got a trivia question.
All right.
So Halliday's Ogg's wife, the one Halliday was in love with, what was her real world name and avatar name in the book, and what was her real name and avatar name in the movie?
I know the avatar name.
I know the avatar name in the book, at least.
Uh-huh.
I know it in the movie.
It's Lucosia in the book, right?
It's Kira from Dark Crystal in the movie.
That's her gamer tag.
Wow.
That's the line, right? No, I'm saying you're right, because that's what Ogg says when he says, "What's her name?" He says Kira, and he goes, "That's her gamer tag." Like, oh, her name is, and I can't remember.
So in the book, her real name was Kira, and her avatar was Lucasia. In the movie, her avatar's name was Kira because of Dark Crystal, but her real name is Karen Underwood.
Karen Underwood, yes. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to make sure I wasn't freaking you guys out. I was quoting from the movie there that Ogg says that's her gamer tag, man, because he says the great line that Mira and I joke about all the time. Where's the juice? There's no juice. I love that. I love that scene so much. All right, well, I think we've done enough damage to this fine film. We can wrap it up there. Yes.
I got one more thing. I just want to re-emphasize one thing. Do I hate this movie? No. But if HBO Max could turn this into a 9-episode TV series a la The Last of Us, it would be the most amazing thing, and I'm all on board for that.
Yeah, I said at the beginning, I like more. I don't want less. You know, these people that say, "Oh, don't do that; it'll ruin it." I'm like, ruin away, because maybe it'll be good. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm 100% down on that.
Yep.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts? We good?
No, man. We really appreciate you having us on. We have to do the trivia episode, because I have a story to tell you guys that I can't wait. Like I was like, I should tell it in the first episode. Then I was like, well, there wasn't a spot for it. And then I was like, well, I'm not telling it during the movie episode. It has to be during the trivia episode. But I've got a little golden story to tell you guys before we get rolling on that. So we got to get together again for trivia.
Hey, another opportunity to hang out with you guys and talk fun stuff is always cool with me. I've really enjoyed both these episodes so much. And again, I want to thank you guys, because in a topic where there's disagreement, I like when folks can work through it and rationalize it and learn, right? And I learned some cool stuff today, so I hope that audience did too. So,
well, let me say something about that.
Okay,
I want to get some shine. I want to get some shine to the Surely You Can't Be Serious podcast, because I was a fan of their show before I got to know them as friends. And one thing that I really took away that shone through early on was just the overall positive approach, the focus on positivity. They demonstrate to everyone how you can disagree on something, but remain civil, remain respectful. I think you're role models for the entire internet out there. Everybody can take a lesson from that. You know, and I have learned to approach albums and movies that I either have never thought about, cared about, or have not liked, and have, you know, able to take a fresh perspective, take it on its own terms, see if I like it or not. And, you know, instead of coming in as a hater, getting ready to trash this movie, I went about, you know, trying my best to love it, and then find a way to articulate, you know, in a positive way, what works, what doesn't. But at the same time, you know, not having it turn into some kind of like toxic hate fest. You know, I give credit to Jason and Dee, and for just the whole approach and tone and vibe of their show, and kind of setting that mindset for me when it comes to stuff like this.
Thanks, Dave.
So
We'll put
we
your check
will-
in the mail.
Yeah, really. Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much.
And I echo everything you said there. We will save the toxic hate fest for whoever wins that trivia. How about that?
Bring it.
All right, guys. The White Rocket's gonna get out of here for another episode, and we will see you all down the road. All right, let me